Let's get started then. So good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm just going to start with one quick admin point, which is that we are recording today's session, as usual. If you don't want to be seen, then you can always turn off your video by clicking on the camera icon at the bottom of the screen. Okay. So now I'd like to ask Ted to get proceedings underway with a short blessing. Thank you, Ted.
Right. Well, thank you very much about the meaning of Beatitudes. I've gone this morning to Matthew 25, verse 35. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you made me welcome. Naked and you clothed me, and in prison and you visited me. And the prayer along those lines. We offer this prayer for the homeless, poor and hungry. We pray that you will bless all and help all who are homeless, poor and hungry, who have no one to take them in. We pray that your Holy Spirit will give them warmth, security, protection and strength in Jesus' name. We commit this prayer to you in Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
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 Thank you, Ted. Now, we're going to move on to the next section, and I have had a complaint over this, but it's not what you think. This complaint actually came from Colin this time.
Oh.
So, like all good stand-ups, Colin thrives on the feedback from his audience. But normally you're all muted. So, as you see today, I've unmuted everybody by special request. So the idea basically is that you can show Colin today just how much you enjoy his jokes and what you think of them. So, over to you, Colin.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. Well, I hope the negatives are more vociferous than the positives. Anyway, here we go. Good morning, gentlemen, and our ladies talking to us today, and the wags who find our meetings so interesting. I'm always hesitant about calling them jokes. I think a more accurate term is offerings. I thought I might deliver today in a slightly different format. Usually I set a scene, pose a question, and then pun issue with the response. For example, last time, the scene was someone took my cheese.
Hang on a minute, you're going to tell us last time's jokes, are you?
Yeah, well, that's just an intro. And the question was, what do I think? And the response was, how dare-y?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, today I will tell a story, then deliver a punchline. So here's the first one. There was a Red Indian chief sitting in his teepee. He had 3 wives. One of them gave birth to twins. The other 2 gave birth to 1 child each. The mother of twins was considered special. She was given a very special hide to sit on, the hippopotamus hide. The other 2 wives were given ordinary hides to sit on. And this just goes to prove the truth of that maths lesson. The score on the hippopotamus is equal to the sum of the scores on the other 2 hides.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, into the next one.
Hey.
I warn you, it's no better. So probably have a bigger groan this time. There were 2 nearby rival tribes in Africa. So we've already been to North America, now we're in Africa. 2 nearby rival tribes, and each played tricks on the other. One day, one tribe decided to raid the other when no one was there. They stole the other chief's throne. The problem was where to hide it. They took it back to their own area and finally decided to hide it above the ceiling in one of their mud huts. Of course, the other tribe guessed they were responsible, turned up demanding the return of the throne. Denials followed. Search of huts ensued. They eventually went into the correct hut. The owner denied all knowledge of the whereabouts of the throne. At that moment, the heavy throne was too much for the ceiling, fell through, landed on the mud hut owner and killed him. Well, this goes to prove people in grass houses shouldn't stow thrones.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Anyway, the final one.
Well, I think
And
you've
this
got
is
a- I think
very
you've got a-
Bible
I think you've got a
last
bit of a giggle there, Colin, actually. I think that's
I think I
brilliant.
might have done. Anyway, this final one is in Europe.
Okay.
To be more precise, Spain. Now, this was told to me last weekend on a blacksmithing course. And some of you know the familiar face I saw in the literature advertising it was Mike King. Anyway, in Spain, there was an important meeting between the Basque separatists and central government in a government building in Madrid. The Basque reps turned up, and unfamiliar with revolving entrance, they all went in one at a time. They went into this revolving door, but didn't get out again. They missed the meeting. The case went against them. Catastrophe. But this just goes to prove you shouldn't put all your Basques into one exit.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
Perhaps we ought to go back to the other format that I used to have.
Well, do you know, I think that actually went quite well, Colin. Right,
That
so
doesn't say much for the previous ones, does
I think brevity is very underrated, personally. But
it?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, actually, Malcolm. Okay, so now I'm going to thank you for that, Colin. I'm now going to mute everybody, apart from Jenny and Naomi, and we're going to move on with the main part of this morning's meeting. Okay. So I'm just asking Jenny and Naomi to unmute themselves.
Yeah.
When they've done so, please feel free to start.
Oh, morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you so much, Bill, for inviting us. It feels like it's been in the diary for a little while, hasn't it? And I've just heard a little bit of the story of the context of, this Ashford Men's Breakfast and been going for so long. And obviously just great relationships and friendships across churches. That's just fantastic. We've just had the privilege of having some amazing support coming into both Beatitude and the new charity this last year from Ashtead. So that's been a joyful thing to make friends. But I'm Jenny. I recognise some of you. Colin we know, and obviously Mike King, and I saw another few faces we know. And this is my daughter Naomi. Ruth was going to join us, but she couldn't make it this morning. And we manage and run Beatitude. So yeah, it was just to tell you a little bit of just the story of the shop and why a shop and what's happened over the 16 years. I think basically 2004, 2005, the church we were part of, Pioneer People, closed, and we were just all released with blessing just to discover where we wanted to connect and the things that were in our hearts. And we spent a little while, about 6 months, on a Sunday afternoon, a group of friends having a cup of tea, a piece of cake, just saying to God, here we are, we're friends, we've got a lot of passion, we've got a lot of love for Leatherhead, we've got a lot of hopes and dreams inside of us, but what do you want us to do? And probably that prayer went on for about 6 months. And then somebody came along and said, there's an empty shop in North Leatherhead next to the bookies, and went to look at it, absolutely fell in love with the space. It's a bit like a TARDIS, it's only small, but the location is amazing, right by Four Estates, opposite the little school, opposite the recreation ground, and just felt it just came alive with the potential and the possibilities. And these group of friends said to me, well, we can't all do the shop, if you do the shop, we will pay the rent. So for the last 16 years, a group of friends have paid the rent of that shop. So it's just rooted in generosity and relationship and friendship, which has allowed us to just go on the most amazing journeys, you know, as a team. And I think if I go back to a little bit of my personal story that I didn't realize, it's like little things happen in lives, don't they? And we forget them, but God doesn't forget. And when I've got 4 children, when they're all young and Naomi was the baby in the pushchair, we jumped on a bus, went to Guildford to the Friary Centre. I shouldn't have gone. I didn't have any money to buy anything, but I just needed to get out of the house and go somewhere different. So I was standing outside Mothercare, and I went into this little fantasy of, wouldn't it be absolutely amazing if somebody came along and tapped me on the shoulder and just said, oh, go on in, love, and get everything you need. I was dreaming that Peter needed shorts and t-shirts, Naomi needed pajamas, Michael needed this, Lucy needed that. And I was enjoying that fantasy for like a few minutes, and I just felt it, just deep inside me, it turned into a prayer. And I just found myself saying to God, if ever I'm in a position to be able to do that for a young mum, how absolutely wonderful that would be. And just came home on the bus, and life carries on. And then you think 25 years later, suddenly there's a little shop opening, and I hadn't made the connection. But the shop opened with that heart of generosity. So it's a shop. It serves babies and children, young people, babies up to about 16, toys, equipment, games. Shoes are £1, t-shirts are 50p, buggies are £4. But we have the potential, if a health visitor or social worker just phones us, which happens very often, or another mum knows another mum in crisis, you know, we can say, you know, what do they need? And I had this little moment where a grandma came in the shop, and she said to me, she said, I've got unexpectedly, out of a really difficult situation, I've got my 3 grandchildren with me. I've got absolutely nothing. I can't get them anything. And she just started to weep in front of me. So I just grabbed her some black bags and just said, just go around the shop and just take everything you need for all of them. And it's just, in that moment, it's like God gave me a little poke on the shoulder, said, do you remember? Do you remember? And it was like as a joyful day. So we call them our red letter days. If we have days in the shop where we give away more than we take, you know, those days are really precious to us because they're good reminders of what we're about. And I think, why North Leatherhead? Why the location? Because when we opened the shop, it was the most deprived ward in Mole Valley, and it still is very high, with social and economic, a lot of deprivation, and with a lot of felt, seen, known needs of abandonment and neglect, and leading to victimization. And I was challenged because the shop was in the most deprived ward, and we were situated next to Fetcham East, which is the least deprived ward. And I just think, how do we journey this world together? What does the kingdom look like sort of in this sort of situation? So it's been an incredible 16-year journey. The shop is still thriving. We hold it very lightly in the sense that we say to God, should we still be here? Is the need still there? Anything can change at any time, but God just keeps saying to us, you're holding a precious pearl, you know, keep going. So we're still going with it. I think the very first week in the shop when we opened, I'll give you a couple of stories. We saw the DNA of all the things we hoped for so quickly, which was just so encouraging. The headmistress of the shop, the headmistress of the little school opposite, which was All Saints School, Jane Goretzka, she phoned me and she said, I've got a mum, she's just had her 4th baby. She needs a double buggy. You haven't got one in, have you? And I said, Jane, it's our first morning. We haven't got any equipment in yet. And she said, oh, I really need one. And I found myself saying, Jane, I'm going to pray one in. I'll phone you at the end of the day. So I just put the phone down, just uttered a prayer, contacted the Twins Club. Nobody knew of one. And then somebody texted me saying, oh, I hear you're looking for a double buggy. There's one around the corner in Dilston Road for £30. literally within 5 minutes, a friend walked past the shop and said, I know it's your first day of opening, just want to give you a gift, here's £30. So we got the buggy. I phoned Jane Goretzka, the head, and she got it and she delivered it herself to the mum. And that is, and I'm not saying things like that happen every day, but over the years, there's an incredible number of stories of just moments of instant provision and, you know, God seeing a need and meeting it. And I had this young lad, this was really provoking to me. He's 14, and he came flying in the shop. I think it was maybe it was a Saturday morning of that first week. He was really hot and flustered, and he said, "Have you got any socks for me?" He said, "I need socks," and he was wearing football boots. And I said, "Alan, this is a baby." I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Alan." He said, "Alan, this is a baby shop. I haven't got any socks your size." He said, "Yes, you have. It says up there." He said, pointed to the sign, and he said, "It says children's socks 10p." And I said, "Alan, they're baby socks." He said, "Let's get them down. Let me have a look." So he went through all these socks. He found a pair that stretched. He took off his football boots. His feet were so sore. He shoved these socks on his feet. I don't know how he did. And he was triumphant, said, "See, I told you they'd fit." And I said, "Alan, come in on Monday. There'll be socks for you." And that started a journey with this young man. He came in and he looked at something on the wall and he said, "We were sponsoring children through compassion because we felt like even at the beginning, it's important to together lift our sights sort of beyond our own sort of community in North Leatherhead. And we'd put something on the wall about it." He said, "Tell me, what's that all about?" So I told him what we were doing. And he said, "I need to help you with that, don't I?" So I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "If you're serious, come in after school and we'll talk about it." He came in and we had a brainstorm. He said, "Yeah," he said, he went to St Andrew's School in Leatherhead. He said, "We could do a mufti day." He said, "But none of the teachers like me." He said, "I'm a real pain in the backside." He said, "You'll have to talk to the head because she'll never let me do it." So we wrote a letter to the head. And I said, "Alan, why do you want to do this?" And he said, "Because when you think about it," he said, "I'm so rich, aren't I?" And this was a young lad just rooted in the community, just from such a difficult, his own story. And he was just overflowing. He just had such a big heart. And anyway, the head let us do a mufti day and we had to do an assembly and he got an award at the end of the year. And it's just been incredible journeys with individuals. And it's just it is a very, very practical way to support families. It's very important to us that we keep the prices low and make it incredibly affordable. Graham, did any of you remember Graham Peddy?
Yes.
Yeah. Graham Peddy sadly has just, well, he's, what did they say in the old days? Been promoted to glory. But when the shop opened, Graham phoned me. I didn't know him very well then. And he said, "Just want to say something to you." He said, "I love this shop." He said, "But just want to tell you, you will be abused. And when you are, just remember Jesus was." And he put the phone down. And just every now and again, you just have this thought, "Oh, am I being taken for a ride here? Are they taking the mickey? Are they getting something from us and, you know, making a lot of money off eBay?" And Graham's words come in my head. And I just know if those moments ever happen, they're very, very few and far between. So, you know, that just sort of settled that for us. My late husband, Alan, he said to me one day, he said, "This is just so much more than a shop." We're going to put photos up. Yeah, let's put the photos up. Yes, that's our little logo.
That's working.
I think the first one is going to be the day the shop opened. Gosh, we look so young then. That was 2005. But the shop as it is now, it's looking a bit different. Yeah, he said it's much, much more than a shop. It's a doorway right into the heart and right into the lives of the community. And he's been so, so right, because we've had the privilege of just sitting and listening and being able to respond together to the needs that have come up. One of the things has been the counselling Oh yeah, that's the shop. It's so well stocked. We are unbelievably well stocked. I wish there was other shops like us. I think it's a bit grievous when you have too much, you don't know what to do with it. So too much stuff is almost as much of a problem as too little. So we're always looking for outlets where to pass on, because we're so wonderfully provided for with children's clothes, which is amazing now. I think we've got quite well known over the years. But what we took a few women away for a weekend, and on the weekend just realised that I had a conversation, at least probably 6 out of the 9 we took away had suffered very significant abuse, sexual abuse, but had never had it addressed, never been able to talk to anybody, never had counselling, never had help, and were really suffering with the impact. And we came away just thinking, this isn't okay. If you go to the doctor, you can have 6 weeks of CBT, but the waiting list is so high, and counselling is so expensive, and our hearts just went out to these women. So I went to a really good counselling service who specialise in abuse, and Maggie Ellis down on the South Coast. And we said to her, if we provide the safe place, and if we provide the finances, would you provide the counsellor? And she said, well, this could be an amazing partnership, but it was quite a distance. She's down on the South Coast, we're in Leatherhead. But she went to her team, and absolutely amazingly, one lady in her team said, God gave me a dream years ago of counselling coming out of a shop. I'm in. So for the last 7, 8 years, quietly on a Monday and Tuesday, counselling has been going on in this little cabin. It's just been an amazing support, and we just ask people for £5 if they can contribute that. I said, please never not come to a session if you haven't got a fiver. Just come. This is too important for you. And I just love that the shop can be really busy and crazy, and then at the back of the shop, and Colin's helped us paint this, is counselling happening. So we're very, very grateful for the support we've had. And it's like, again, right at the beginning, we felt like we had a couple, God whispered a few things to us. One of them was the best of the best, this little phrase, don't be afraid in a community that often doesn't have the best. Ask God for the best, because it demonstrates something different. It brings in a different dynamic. It produces some hope and lifts people out of feeling a victim and provokes generosity. And we found that generosity is so contagious. But another thing we felt was this little phrase that to every frustration there is a solution, and to every problem there is an answer. Not necessarily the answer that we always want, but we had a crazy summer in the shop, and people weren't going, and the little shop was full of children, and it was noisy, and it was a bit wild and chaotic. And I said to 1 or 2 of the women, Alison, when are you going on holiday? And she just laughed, and she said, what's the holiday? So I said, seriously, Alison, when did you last go on holiday? And she said, 10 years ago. So we did a little, everybody in the shop stopped. When did you all last go on holiday? And I said to them the next morning, come on in, we're going to put lining paper on the walls of the shop. We're just going to brainstorm together. We're just going to dream. And all sorts of crazy ideas the next day went on the lining paper. And we just ended up saying, we can't send you all on holiday, but let's buy a caravan. And 2 or 3 months later, God gave us 24,000, bought a caravan, done on the South Coast at Pagham. And every year we could send 30 families from Leatherhead away just to have a break, which was just like amazing, because I think it opened my eyes when you really listen and you really hear and absorb it. If you never ever go on holiday, if you never have a weekend away, if you never go out for a meal, if you never go to the theatre or the cinema, life is just becomes so narrow and so small and so grey. And that's just been a deep prayer for God to just bring some hope and some joy and friendship and opportunities, back into the community. So part of the thing we do is events for families that can't go on holiday. The last few years, it's just so simple. We just get a couple of inflatable slides in, get the ice cream van in, put a few arts and crafts in, get people to bring a picnic, and everything's free, and just say, come to the Rec. So where's our little shop, Naomi? Right there. Yeah, our little shop's right there. This is a recreation ground opposite, and you get 200 or 300 people just coming, and the absolute delight for kids, because if you go to the fair, you can go on one ride maybe, but for 3 or 4 hours these kids could go endlessly on these rides, and free ice creams. It was just such a simple little idea that dropped into our hearts together. But we're going to hopefully do it again this summer, because it's just tough. Particularly recovering from COVID and families in flats with no gardens, it's just to bring some fun in is just really, really important to us. So am I talking too much?
No, you'll carry on.
Okay, do shout, Bill, if I just keep going. Okay,
Just keep going.
okay. Kings and Queens, this was just absolutely magical together, absolutely magical. Friends of ours in Roehampton were doing it, and just loved the idea, because again, we realized we had older people coming into the shop, and it's a baby shop, and we did have a little area for tea and coffee, and they would just sit there with a cup of tea and just absolutely love engaging, with the families and the children there. It was just, we adopted them and we became their family. I'm just thinking of Brian. I don't think Brian is in this photo because Brian had died at this point, but Brian became Brian told us we were his family. He lived just down the road. He did have family, and he was completely, it wasn't good relationships, and we were always trying to encourage him with his children. But he kept saying to us, "You're my family." And it was his 70th birthday, and he got grumpier and grumpier in the shop. I was like, "What's the matter with you, Brian?" And he just ended up saying it was his birthday and he hated his birthday. So we again engaged with him with his story. He'd never in his life had a party. He'd never blown out candles on a cake. Birthdays for him were terrible. So we persuaded him to come to the shop on a Sunday afternoon. Got all the mums in, and it was amazing, Naomi, wasn't it? When we turned out the lights and brought in a cake and sang happy birthday to him, and there were lots of tears. But we realised actually the loneliness for a lot of the older generation in and around the shop was quite extreme. So we put a big marquee again on the rec. So grateful to have a recreation ground and the green space. Just wanted it to look absolutely beautiful, a bit like a proper reception. So I think it was 120, 3-course meal. Thurfield students helped, and the LYP helped, the Leatherhead Youth Project. Had some great entertainment, some games. Everybody went home with a gift, and it was completely magical. And there were just so many tears at the end of it. I think people just feeling loved. So it was a lot of hard work, and it did cost a bit of money, but it was so worth it. And we want to do it again next year. We've been able to do smaller events with Thurfield at Christmas with them, but there's something amazing about doing a big event like this. Every few years, it's just like, just treat people like kings and queens and make them just feel so special and loved. So that's the kings and queens. So you open a baby shop and you just never know where it's going to take you. And we've done, because we've become families, we've taken people's funerals, we've had wakes in the shop, we've been involved in so many ways. But this building here on the right, that's the Hive. And again, about probably a couple of years ago, this was Naomi's inspiration. She did this amazing poster in the shop. What if North Leatherhead was filled with colour, joy and beauty? And it just captured us, because just the ongoing prayer for restoration and redemption and giving people opportunity. Everybody's got dreams, to just let their dreams sort of come out. And one of the mums we were just sort of journeying with, she got a dream of doing an art course, and I went to the Leatherhead Institute, and it was like £300 for the term, which is like, so on one level it's not a lot of money, but if you haven't got any money, it's just like so beyond you. And so I went to, back to your niece, Mike, Jenny. I said, "Jenny, if we sponsor you, would you run a little art group?" And it was amazing. Wendy came alive in that art group, as did others. And just providing the space for creativity. And this is the hive. Half of it, we're just getting it ready now. We were in the children's centre, but that closed down with the diocese selling it. So we've just moved over to this new hub, and the space on the left is going to be 6 or 8 sewing machines, and people are going to come in skilled and unskilled, learn to sew, just build relationships. The year that we had it open in the children's centre, we didn't realise how healing and how therapeutic it was going to be, in terms of if you come in with anxiety or any mental health issues or loneliness, and just sitting with a group of others and learning a skill or sharing the skills you've got was absolutely amazing. And the space on the right is going to be the more messy stuff, the art, the painting, the mosaics, the things like that, lino printing. We can't open it quite yet because we're still waiting to put the toilets in the building. I'm talking with, that was with my Leatherhead community hat on, but the Beatitude has partnered with the new charity, the Leatherhead Community Hub, to bring the hive into this space. So I think it's, yeah, it continues to be an amazing journey with individuals, and just the ongoing desire for opportunities for people just to experience things. You talk about the Fire and Iron Gallery. I would dream of things like that. So where could we put a potter in North Leatherhead? Where could we do carpentry and furniture restoration? Where could we started it, Colin, didn't we, in a tiny way, but we didn't have the space. So I know that 3 things have to come together. You have to have people, you have to have physical space, and you have to have finances. And when those 3 things are there, the magic can happen. So we're just looking all the time for spaces, just to provide opportunities for people, because people are walking around. That Alan Hopper, he was 14 then, 16 years on now. What's 16 and 14?
30.
Yeah, thank you. And he's sort of okay, but he's got this dream to be a chef. He really, really wants to be a chef. Over COVID, he taught his kids the most basic stuff, but there's no way he's going to be able to do that. So we're just like, okay, how's Alan going to get into just really developing that? Where's he going to be a chef? Where's that opportunity? So, yeah, that's probably enough chatting from me.
Well, thank you very much, Jenny. That was great. Can I ask, do we have any questions for Jenny at this stage? Well, I've got about 5, so I suggest anybody who wants to have a go, they better get in quick, because otherwise I'm going to monopolise question time. Okay, right. Well, look, you had your chance. Okay. First one is just a small thing. Did I hear you say that you had a wake in the shop?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it was, in fact, it's happened twice. Again, because we have truly become family to the older generation, that we have ended up that when they have died, I don't know how many. I mean, I'm not a vicar, so we have to have somebody there at the crematorium. But we've been asked to take the service, so I've had to learn sort of, well, not what you do in those situations, but just to really, journey with their family through probably the hardest time. It's been a way to bring people together. And then, have you thought about what are you going to do afterwards? Oh, we're not going to do anything. Well, you can't not do anything. Come to the shop. So we've just opened the shop up for different things at different times. There was Diane, little Diane. She probably came in the shop every day. We discovered when she was age 50, she didn't know how to read or write. She learned to read at age 50. Lived in Dilston Road. And she was so proud of herself for learning to read. And a few years down the line, we noticed she was losing weight. So I said, I'm going with you to the doctors. And then they sent her for scans. I sat with her and they told her she got 3 months to live, which was a devastating shock. And we came home. She was probably a little bit like a child in that she absorbed it, and she said, the thing I'm most scared of is being by myself. Please don't leave me on my own. And then you realize, actually, there's a reality. If we're saying to her, we're her family, if she's saying to us, you're my family, what do you do when your family in that situation? You pull together. So we had a rota. We didn't leave her alone day or night. We stayed there at nights with her. She didn't have any money for her funeral. She was in debt to the undertakers for £1,000 for her husband's from the year before. She couldn't pay that off. There was a reason why she couldn't get the government grant. And she said, I'm really, really worried I can't pay it. So we said, okay, we're your family, we'll do it, don't worry. We had literally had this thing in the shop because everybody loved her and knew her for Diane's funeral pot. And she knew about it. She was so excited. She would ask every day, how much money's come in, how much money's come in. The Friday before she died, the last £50 came in. And Ruth and I went to sit with her and told her that the last £50 was in, and she clapped her hands like a child. And she said, isn't this just absolutely wonderful? And then, you know, with her when she sadly died. But again, you've got to journey with people through to the end. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, Mike. Oh, hang on. We need to unmute you.
I always need unmuting. Bill. Jenny and Naomi, thank you. You talk very eloquently about the amazing support you have, the friends, the family that you built around you. To what extent do you feel that that goes beyond and is matched by local authorities, the church, you know, the more official bodies who could support you in more official ways and not just in a sort of formal sense, but financially, etc.?
Yeah, that has really grown. Probably the first 5-6 years, that wasn't in place at all. And I think everybody was just wondering, well, who on earth we were, what we were about. We were a bit crazy. But I think as the years gone on and we could prove some credibility, there hasn't really been much funding from the councils, but the last couple of years, 1 or 2 businesses have really jumped on board. And that's a challenge to me because Leatherhead is surrounded by, you know, headquarters of the most amazing businesses, ExxonMobil, Waits, KBR. And we've just begun to make connections, you know, into the business world. And there are churches that have really adopted us, which is fantastic. So, you know, that has really come the last few years. We're just so grateful for that. We do have to get grants for, if we feel like God drops something in our hearts, like to do another Kings and Queens. You know, there's not money in Beatitude account for that. We have to look for grant funding for things like that. Or just put that out. We've got a fairly solid base of individual sponsors, which needs to grow. But yeah, there's an amazing well of provision. I don't think, yeah. I'm
thinking particularly, I mean, the plans you have, and I've been following them closely on the community hub. And yet at the same time, I also see plans for, you know, huge developments in Leatherhead, the wish to build, and, you know, obviously there's always a demand for land. Are you getting the support that you need in order to achieve what you want there long term?
Well, the council have just given us a very good long lease on the building we're in now, which is really good news. We had to walk away very sadly from the children's centre. That was just a massive blow and just fed into the old story of abandonment and neglect for a children's centre to close. So part of the motivation for finding another space was to bring back, like, health visitors, midwives, all those support services. They just stopped. So the Leatherhead Community Hub will really go a long way to help towards some of that. So we've got a good long lease on that one, which is good. And I mean, the community fundraiser for that one was incredible, absolutely incredible. So we've got the money to do the toilets and the kitchen, and yeah.
Very good.
in terms of other spaces and other dreams, I think we'll just have to tackle them every time they come up and just keep praying. You know, where is there? Because we get really grieved when we see particularly the young men just a bit aimless and uncertain, and Alan wouldn't be in that category, but many others who are not working, but you just know with a bit of support and a bit of an opportunity, something could change. So for Men's Shed, all the furniture restoration, which is a key one for us, I think, just Colin's, you know, started with us in a very small way. Those physical spaces. So I would love to see whether any of the industries around had got space for us to develop some of these things, because it can't all happen in one building. You need lots of different spaces.
Yeah.
Okay. James, you have a question. Hang on a second, we just need to unmute you.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Naomi. You paint the most wonderful picture of what you do, and also of community. It's quite remarkable. Can you tell us, do you have a visiting ministry? Do you go out and visit the elderly and check on families and find out their needs?
Yeah, but very informally. So yes, it's not a formal thing, but we do, and through the little gathering church as well, we started to connect more with families. So yeah, we do. A lot of my work is one-to-one support outside the shop. You know, taking somebody out for coffee, or really filling in forms, or going to hospital visits, or whatever is needed, as would Ruth and Naomi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's your dream for the future? What do you hope for in the next 5 years? What would you really like to see have happen?
I think it would be to see some of these other spaces open up with real opportunities for people to really listen to other people's dreams. So the dreams of the young men in the community, and then find a way together to how can some of these things happen? How can we journey with you? Where are the spaces for the physical skills? Where's the opportunity into business when somebody is skilled? Where's the opportunity for an Alan to learn to develop becoming a chef? So would love to see those things really develop. It overturns the victim thing, and it really brings a dignity in, and a community that has so often been neglected. It's like, no, I think the thing is, what does it mean to adopt a community? What does it mean for us to adopt a North Leatherhead sort of into the love of God? And there's not just one answer to that.
Do you have an idea of how you might support young people, both boys and girls, late adolescents?
Yeah, I think it's got to, which is partly why the Leatherhead Community Hub will be good, because it's bigger than Beatitude. So really developing and the strong connections and relationships on the ground, working with LYP, working with the schools, working with finding the inroad into businesses, finding the creative opportunities. So we probably need a few other people to come on board with the same sort of passion and drive to open some of this up.
Yeah, great.
Looks like we're sowing some seeds, but maybe other people need to come in and water it.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? Colin? So we need to unmute you, Colin.
Go.
Oh, sorry, I think we both clicked at the same time then.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Naomi, where do you see yourself within the picture of Beatitude and the rest of it?
Well, clearly you can see that my mum is the storyteller, the dreamer, and the good communicator. I do a lot of the sort of administration for Ashtead, and a lot of the things behind the scenes, and love to make things more beautiful and more accessible, and learning. I think connecting I've been challenged, and I've learned to go from behind the scenes to sort of being more intentional and relational with people. So it's one-to-one support, and just being with people for as long as it takes for them to move into a different chapter in their life. And that's not often a straight road. It's up and down, and it's a real challenge, but it's also a real privilege. And so carry on doing that. And I'm really excited about the Leatherhead Community Hub, and that the Hive being in there. I've just recently adopted a bit of land that was there. It was just a bit of grass, and we've turned it into a therapeutic garden with a lot of help, and working with the GP and the local councillor, and it's just looking absolutely amazing. So I'd love to see that develop as well, and get people with their hands in the dirt. It's very therapeutic, and it's very healing just to do things in the garden. And the conversations you can have in that space are often much more deep and much more profound than sometimes in other spaces. So I'm looking forward to seeing that develop.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I pilot another question here?
Go for it, Mike. Yes.
Just you mentioned Leatherhead being a centre for many major corporations, Unilever as well, although I understand they're moving out, aren't they? But anyway, there are a lot of very, very big companies there. To what extent do you think you're getting the right levels of dialogue with the people who can make a difference in those corporations?
Yeah, I would say we're only, after all these years, we're only just at the starting point with it. We did have a good connection into KBR, but we lost that over COVID, and so it's tricky.
I think part of it is our challenge, because we are very relational, and we respond to needs. So we don't necessarily have business plan. Like we're learning to be a bit more like that. We're generally quite responsive, and that's quite hard sometimes to share with businesses. And you can get a lot of the idea of the Ashtead through our stories, but I think we've been challenged ourselves to actually present in a more sort of business form or business way.
I mean, the reason I ask is because my role at All Saints is very much about trying to connect with some of these companies and get funding for All Saints, which of course is an extension of what you're talking about in one way or another. And I do find very often that it's very difficult to lift the level of conversation to the people who can actually write a check. As opposed to sort of say some nice things and, pat you on the back. And I wonder whether there is an opportunity for a number of these, extended organizations within Leatherhead to come together and really tackle the corporations and say, look, adopt this community that you prey on.
That would be so good, Mike. Yeah, that would be so good. I agree.
Well, I'll pick that conversation with you up separately, both of you.
Because it's not really okay. HH Global, we did go in to do a presentation with them, and their heart did turn towards us, but they said they come in from all over the place. They sit in their lovely offices. They view Leatherhead through their glass windows, maybe go and buy a coffee, and they have no idea what's going on.
No, that's right.
They say to me, this is a challenge. But I think it's a challenge, challenge for all of us. And that does need to change in terms of, I think.
It does.
Okay, how are we doing? Anyone else? Well, I just have one more question, and I'll just limit it to one. There are two things that I think are related, maybe. I was going to ask you about how things have changed during the pandemic, but also I think you said in our previous conversation that you had a coffee centre, a coffee area, I think, in the shop, which you'd had until recently, and I just wondered what had happened there. Those two things related somehow, or?
Yeah. We closed a coffee area in the shop It was just a very small, I mean, it was meaningful. It was challenging because literally we would have families that would come in at 9 o'clock with 2 or 3 buggies and children, and they could be there at 1 o'clock in a tiny, tiny space. But we learned to realise that if a mum is hanging around for hours, there's a reason, and actually but engage. After a little while, just engage what's happening. But I think with COVID and everything, we closed the coffee shop part of it down. But because the Leatherhead Community Hub is literally just across the road, we're going to put a new purpose-built community cafe in there, and it's going to be open onto the rec. We don't need it in the shop. So. Right. Okay. Okay. I think we're probably just about the end of the questions for now. Mike, can I ask you to say a word of thanks on our behalf?
Well, you know, Jenny, Naomi, Bill asked me if I would offer our traditional vote of thanks, and I leapt at the opportunity because I thought this would be absolutely great. I'd love to do this. And as you've spoken, I've become more and more fearful of saying anything, because how one could possibly thank you for what you do. I mean, I can thank you for coming and talking to us this morning and expressing it, but my goodness me, a doorway into the heart of the community. I think that says it all. KT22 is a real challenge. There we have the 2 pictures of society that just do not begin to meet. You have multi-million pound houses and wealth beyond imagination, billionaires, literally billionaires, within a couple of 100 yards of people living in great deprivation. But there you are, right at the heart of it, God's hands working. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Now, I've just discovered a new command on the menu, and it says ask all to unmute. I've never pressed this before, so here goes. Let's see what happens. Could everybody unmute, please?
There you are. Look
Can
at
you
that.
just raise a thumb or something if you've unmuted? Great. Okay. Well, in that case, what I'd like to now is ask for a round of applause.
Hey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was truly inspirational.
Thank you.
It really was.
Just one last little thought. Do you know what an anagram of Leatherhead is?
No. I sound like Colin Straightman again now.
Not a joke.
Sorry.
It's wonderful though. It's healed heart or healed earth. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, wow.
Isn't that
wonderful.
fantastic?
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Okay, I've just got one.
I need a trustee. If any of you amazing gentlemen want to be a trustee, just come and talk to us. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, come on, there's a challenge.
Okay.
There has to be someone here.
Somebody you know, with a little bit of time and love.
Okay, I've just got one more short general announcement to make. And really that is that we're still hoping to return to normal breakfasts in September. We've obviously been down a few blind alleys and changes of direction with COVID, and you know we're obviously going to be subject to whatever rules are in place at the time. But we're hoping that our next meeting, which will be on the 18th of September, will be in the Baptist Hall. But we will keep you posted on developments and thinking and so forth. And one thing that we might well do, I think we're going to do this, is send out to you an email asking, you know, who wants to do this. We want to try and get some idea for, you know, are people actually ready to go back to normal breakfast, and just get your thoughts on that. So watch out for that. And also that will probably come out in the same email that has the link to the video of this morning's meeting. So I will make sure that everybody, including of course Jenny and Naomi, get posted on that email. Okay.
Bill, are we able to pass that recording on to other people?
I believe so. Yes. Sorry.
Naomi, are you happy for us to pass that recording on to other people?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
sure. Mm.
Because I think this morning's talk was just an astounding piece of work, and I think we should share it as widely as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
All of us.
It will, like our other Zoom meetings, find its way onto the Men's Breakfast YouTube channel, where you can find all the previous ones that we've been allowed to record. I think there's only one that we weren't allowed to record for some reason, but they're all there.
Go.
And this will join them in due course. Okay, thanks to everybody. Finally, thanks to everybody for coming this morning, particularly to Jenny and Naomi. And goodbye and God bless.
Take care.
See you
Very
next
special.
time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Naomi.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Yes, and you. Everyone.